MBFriends presents the INTP, the architect.
Architectonics is the science of spatial relationships, organization, structure, build, configuration, and architects from a very early age are preoccupied with spatial relativity and systems design. But INTPs must not be thought of as only interested in configuring three-dimensional spaces such as buildings, spatial relativity and systems design. But INTPs must not be thought of as only interested in configuring three-dimensional spaces such as buildings. In other words, INTPs are men and women whose aim is to design systemic structures and to engineer structural models. All of these architects look upon the world as little more than raw material to be reshaped according to their design, as formless stone that must yield to their coordinate of demarcation. Indeed, in their later years, after finding out that most others are faking an understanding of the laws of nature, INTPs are likely to think of themselves as the master organizers who must pit themselves against nature and society in an unending effort to create organization out of the raw materials of nature. Where the mastermind rationals are would-be masters of order, the architect rationals would be masters of organization. As a variant of Plato's rationals and Aristotle's dialecticals, the LNTPs are little different from the other NTs in most respects. Like all the rationals, they are abstract in communication and utilitarian in how they implement their goals. They choose to study science, are preoccupied with technology, and work well with systems. Their point of view is pragmatic, skeptical, relativistic, focused on spatial intersection and intervals of time. They base their self-image on being ingenious, autonomous, and resolute. They would if possible be calm, they trust reason, are hungry for achievement, seek knowledge, prize deference, and aspire to be wizards of science and technology. Intellectually, they are prone to practice strategy far more than diplomacy, tactics, and especially logistics. Further, with their probing or exploring nature they tend to opt for the engineer's informative role rather than the quick scheduling coordinator's directive role, and because they are reserved and highly attentive they seem to prefer the role variant of architect over inventor.
Masterminds are rare, comprising no more than 1% of the total population, and they are rarely encountered outside their office, factory, or laboratory. Architects are rare, say 1% of the population, and therefore not to be encountered in ordinary places, or if encountered, not recognized. For this type of rationale, the world exists primarily to be analyzed, understood, and explained. External reality in itself is unimportant, a mere arena for checking out the usefulness of ideas. What is important is that the underlying structures of the universe be uncovered and articulated, and that whatever is stated about the universe be stated correctly, with coherence and without redundancy. Curiosity concerning these fundamental structures is the driving force in INTPs, and they care little whether others understand or accept their ideas. Only ideas that make sense to them are adopted. Those that don't, aren't, no matter who the author is. Architects will learn in any manner and degree they can. If knowledge can be gathered from observing someone or taking some action, then such is worthwhile. If not, then not. Architects prize intelligence in themselves and in others, and seem constantly on the lookout for the technological principles and natural laws upon which the real world is structured. The cognitive scanning of LNTPs is not global and diffuse like NNFs. On the contrary, architects limit their search to only what is relevant to the issue at hand, and thus they seem able to concentrate better than any other type. Architects can also become obsessed with analysis. Once caught up in a thought process, that process seems to have a will of its own, and they persevere until they comprehend the issue in all its complexity. Moreover, once INTPs know something, they remember it. With their grand desire to grasp the laws of unity and diversity, they can be a bit snobbish and may show impatience at times with others less endowed with engineering ability, or less driven. Unfortunately, their pride and their ingenuity can, at times, generate hostility and defensive maneuvers on the part of others.
Architects exhibit the greatest precision in thought and language of all the types. They tend to see distinctions and inconsistencies in thought and language instantaneously, and can detect contradictions in statements no matter when or where the statements were made. Only sentences that are coherent carry weight with them, and thus authority derived from office, credential, or celebrity does not impress them. Like the INTPs are devastating in debate or any form of adversarial discussion, their skill in differential analysis giving them an enormous advantage in discrediting their opponents' arguments and in structuring their own. They regard all discussions as a search for understanding, and believe their function is to eliminate inconsistencies, no matter who was guilty of them. It is difficult for an INTP to listen to nonsense, even in a casual conversation, without pointing out the speaker's error, and this makes communication with them an uncomfortable experience for many.
This type of rational is their logician, the mathematician, the technologist, the scientist, that person given to any pursuit that requires architectonics, systems analysis, or structural design. Mind you, architecting is not the artisan's fitting of physical shapes into pleasing forms, but the more abstract process of designing models. For the architect, the model is the thing, whether a 2, 3, or 4-dimensional model. It is hard for some types to understand these terse, observant engineers because of their complex and technical speech and their avoidance of redundancy. However, they can be excellent teachers, particularly for advanced students, although here again they rarely enjoy much popularity, for they can be hard taskmasters. They are not good at clerical jobs and are impatient with routine details. They prefer to work quietly, without interruption, and often alone. They are inclined to be shy except when with close friends, and their reserve is difficult to penetrate. For all these reasons, INTPs are often seen as difficult to know, and are seldom perceived at their true level of competency. If an organization is to use their talents effectively, architects must be given an efficient support staff who can capture their ideas as they emerge and before they lose interest and turn to another idea.
INTPs want their mates to be independent as well, able to stand up to the sometimes formidable strength of their personality.
Architects take their mating relationship seriously and are faithful and devoted, albeit preoccupied at times, and somewhat forgetful of appointments, anniversaries, and other common social rituals. They are not likely to welcome much social activity at home, nor will they arrange it. Content to leave the scheduling of social interactions to their mate. If left to their own devices, INTPs will retreat into the world of books and emerge only when physical needs become imperative. Architects are, however, even-tempered, compliant, and easy to live with, that is, until one of their principles is violated, in which case their adaptability ceases altogether. They prefer to keep their desires and emotions to themselves, and may seem insensitive to the desires and emotions of others, an insensitivity that can puzzle and frustrate their mates. But if what their mates are feeling is a mystery to them, architects are keenly aware of what their mates actually say and do, and will often ask their mates to give a rationale for their statements and actions. Architects are devoted parents, they enjoy children, and are very serious about their upbringing. Each of their children is treated as a rational individual, with rights, privileges, and as much autonomy as that child can handle safely. INTPs encourage their children to take responsibility for their own lives and to chart their own course. They do not visit their own expectations on their children and never attack them physically or verbally. When safe to do so, architects let the natural consequences of their children's actions teach them about reality. When this is unsafe, they somehow contrive to design logical consequences to inform their children's actions. Architects and teachers are apart to share a rare compatibility. The reserved and probing architects, INTPs, all too easily lost in their abstract designs and desire for coherence, can despair of ever finding a mate who will listen to them and appreciate their visions. Fortunately, the expressive and schedule-minded teachers, ENFJs, brimming with ideas in their own right, are catalysts of the personal growth enthusiasm. All the idealists seem to have this facilitative capability in some degree. But teachers seem to have it in abundance, and architects find this combination of intellect